Hey, what's up guys? I have another knife review today. Today we're looking at this, let me get this real close so you guys can see what's up. We're looking at an Anzo pattern Sypderco, and this one is a Sypderco Zulu. Very interesting, very unique. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I think it's a very functional knife. I don't particularly like the design, and you might be surprised to find out that I just am not a big fan of Anzo's work. A lot of fans out there. He does some unique stuff, I'll give him that. He's definitely thinking outside the box and doing his own thing, which is very cool. There's no mimicking anything. He's setting some patterns and he's setting trends, which is really, really cool. His stuff is very functional. You know, I've had a couple of other designs that he's came up with, and they're functional knives, as is this one. It works great. It's a good quality built knife, and it will work to cut stuff. There are some drawbacks, but just generally speaking, not into the design. Kind of on the strange side. Not that strange, you know, and I like strange and weird things, trust me. Blade shape just doesn't do anything for me. It's functional. The closest thing I can even say to describe this is kind of a scimitar style blade of sorts, but you can't, you know, let the overall design fool you. You know, looking at the functional edge of it, okay, the sharpened portion of it, basically what we have here is a modified tanto. That's all we're really looking at here. We have a slight recurve, okay, lots of belly, and then it shoots straight up, almost on a straight angle. So we basically have a tanto style blade. It's just the spine throws us off because of this wicked curvature, which is, it's interesting. And a lot of people dig stuff like this. They really like it. I just personally don't. It's not my thing. But as far as functionality, it works great. And in some cases, it works even better than a traditional tanto, or even an Americanized tanto, because of the fact that our secondary point isn't really a point. It's just belly. So it is an interesting design, and it does cut through things very well. All right. We have a S30V stainless blade. Everyone knows the deal. Crucible CPM S30V. Nothing new. And since you guys haven't seen cut tests in a while, there we go. Yay, it's sharp. Most Sypdercos are nice and sharp out of the box. This is new, exception. Yay. That one hooked on the bottom here. I do have a slight, I don't want to say a roll in here, but there's a slight defect right here. You're not going to be able to see it, probably, but I can feel it. Talked to this before. If you pull your fingernail back, I mean, be very careful, obviously, but if you pull it back so it's not touching the skin, just the nail itself, you can run it very lightly across your fingers, and you could feel nicks in your blade. I have one right here. Barely even a nick, but when cutting through something, it will grab. All right, the base by the Ricasso is extremely sharp. Right there, there's just a little bit of resistance, okay? So if I'm trying to whip through something very fast, and I catch that, of course now it's not gonna work. Of course. You can see right there. It's more, you could feel it more than you can see. Oh, there we go. All right, so it's slicing and slicing, and then it just grabs, okay, and it tore the paper as opposed to slice it, but the rest of the blade is nice and sharp. Anyway, move that big old mess to the side. Cut tests are very fun. I've said it before, if you're doing a knife review, it means you used the knife, and if you use the knife, you don't have a factory edge. Therefore, presenting a cut test to someone doesn't represent you know, a fair amount of expectations to that person. So the easier way to say that is, when you see a cool cut test, it doesn't mean if you buy that knife it's going to be that sharp. Someone could you know, resharpen it after their use. They could have you know, could not be performing very well because they didn't sharpen it properly. So there's too many factors there. Unless you're taking a knife out of the box, doing a cut test. Actually, you know, it'd be kind of cool. Maybe I'll do that in the future, where when I first get a knife, I'll just film a very short clip of you know, out of the box cuts. I should make a pretty good series of just those videos. You know, you'd have to add something else to it, otherwise they'd be like, you know, 10-second videos. But it's an interesting idea. By all means, if you make videos, take it for yourself. But taking knives directly out of the box and showing a couple cut tests with the factory edge, and then maybe inserting that later, you know, into a full review. But anyway, they're just fun to watch. They don't really mean much. It maybe will illustrate a little bit better as to how it cuts because of the blade shape. But anyway, like I said, overall, you're thrown off by this the spine being curved in as well, and then you know, also being basically a recurve, and kind of reminiscent to me of the edge on a cricket. If you have a Sypderco cricket, actually, you know what? Hang on just a second. Let me go grab mine. Yeah. I know. Didn't decide to edit that out. So here's a Sypderco cricket. You can see how this curvature on the spine matches the Zulu here. All right. So interesting, but nonetheless, it doesn't affect the cutting performance of this. I'm not really sure exactly why it's curved like that, because naturally holding a knife in the handle like this, you can't choke up very well. You have to really choke up, and there should be a finger twirl down here if that was the case, so you could rest it like that. But anyway, regardless, looking at just the cutting edge and imagining this being straight or simple, you can see that a lot better. It's just, when you look at it like that, you're so, at least me anyway, I'm so thrown off by this. I don't know what's going on, but if I visualize it like this, you can get a better understanding of what's actually, you know, cutting things. And like I said, it's basically just a modified Tanto of sorts. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. So performance is very good on this. That deep belly towards the tip kind of works somewhat like a hawkbill, maybe not as efficiently, but when you're cutting into things, and this is where perhaps a cut test does give you a little visual. Take a piece of paper here. When you're cutting into something, all right, start the base here, and as you're cutting, the material has nowhere to go. Okay, or excuse me, the tip of the blade here, or the, you know, halfway point, it has nowhere to go but deeper into that material because of that natural curve. So even though it's slight, having a natural curve like that does definitely aid in cutting performance, okay? And then of course, a nice deep belly. If you guys use your knives and know what I'm talking about, it's great for slicing all kinds of stuff. So it's an effective blade style. Other than the blade, the handle shape here in general would be very comfortable. It's very reminiscent of like a pistol grip, to be honest. I like it's a little bit chunkier in the bottom. I like the curvature. It doesn't fit my hand all that well towards the base here. Like the curve comes in just a little bit tight for me. If it were opened up and not quite as curved, like if I can, this was, you know, melting plastic, I could just kind of and just straighten it out just a touch, it would be beautiful in my hand. But having, you know, average size man hands, I don't have big old baseball gloves, and I don't have little lady hands either. So somewhere in the middle, I find this handle to be potentially extremely comfortable. But I find there's a little bit of a, I don't know, a squishiness or pinching of my fingers together because I want to fit, you know, for all four, which should fit comfortably in this, you know, for this size. But it tends to get a little bit squished in there. Right? So I wish the curvature was a little bit more open, but still functional, still comfortable. The Enzo pattern on the G10 scales here is great. If you guys are familiar with this stuff, there, you know, a lot of people are working on even like pimping and custom scales. You know, big shout out to Jeff, Tough Thumbs. He does a lot of stuff like this. He has his own patterns, but you know, it's very popular because it looks cool and it actually works. It's functional. Other people like Evco as well. You'll see these different patterns with these knives. They're modifying knives and enhancing knives, and they're putting scales like this on there because it looks good and it's functional. Okay, the idea is it's supposed to be like a topographical map. You have peaks and points, and you know, there's a lot of different surface area for your fingers to go. And of course, with different patterns, you will get different feels overall. But the Enzo pattern, just being a general sculpting of G10, it works very nicely, and I do think it is a very good look. All right, take away that blade for a second, and I do think that the scales look very nice. So moving on, this is a liner lock, very effective liner lock. People get weird sometimes. They want frame locks, they want lockbacks, you know, liners. Not for me. I don't know why. There's enough companies making good, solid liner locking knives. If it's not your thing, that's cool. I get that, but this one's definitely functional. The lockup is perfect. No wiggle, no blade play in any direction, and it's perfectly centered, which is very nice. One thing I did notice is this knife, although it's the design, it's not by mistake, but I feel like this knife is a little bit in the rough, okay? Now, when I mean in the rough, and this is very reminiscent to some of the Ed Schempp models that I've had before, where there's lacking a little bit more detail work. Jimping, there's no jimping on the spine here. Now, although I personally don't care that much, this is a pretty abrupt corner. So when you're using this knife, although I don't really care about my finger slipping off too much, the sides of this spine are actually kind of sharp, all right? So when pushing down really hard on this, it's uncomfortable. I think the jimping would, even though it adds grip, it would, believe it or not, soften the feel of this spine when you're, holding this grip and really using it hard. Besides that, also, there's no cutouts or anything in the liner. The liner is completely smooth. Little things like this are finishing touches. They're details. There could be numerous reasons why it's like this. Some people may say it's wrong. It could be the designer. Anzo might have designed it specifically like this. Said, nope, no jimping, nope, don't want that. So it may not be a mistake. There are other considerations too, when they're making different models like this, and not their staple models. They're Enduras and Delicas and militaries and paramilitaries and blah, blah, blah. When they're not doing that, they have to change all the machinery. Okay, that means more downtime for the knives they sell more. When they do something weird, something new, something funky, it takes away from their, the bread of the company, the meat and potatoes, So they're fooling around over here with some, delicious dessert, but who knows? Not everyone's gonna like it. They gotta go back to meat and potatoes. So it may just be a time issue. The machines themselves that are pumping these knives out, they might not have the time to put in the extra detail on these different models that aren't staple models. So something to consider. Some of those things, there are questions that might never be answered. But I feel overall, it just feels just a little bit unfinished. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, I've had some different Ed Schempp versions from Sypderco, some different models, and it was the same deal where it just felt, the little minor details felt like it wasn't quite done. But, it is what it is. Also, another thing I noticed, which I actually like on this design, is the liner lock. The cutout here in the handle for it is a lot lower than normal. Usually a liner lock, it's right up top, it's right there. I think the reason being is it's just ergonomics. When you're holding a knife like this, your thumb is towards the top here by the pivot. Makes life easy. Plus, the further down it's going to be, the harder it's going to be to push over. All right, but this is a little bit lower than normal, and I like it. It works really nice with this knife. You turn your hand, and my thumb's right there. It's perfect. So I like that. Tiny little detail, something different. It's not the usual stuff. Just a little minor detail that I noticed. It does work though. Very nice. Very simple construction here. The pivot and the two body screws are all the same, which is nice. Torque screws, of course. This is swappable, the clip. Now I carry this with the factory tip down position. This is how the knife comes to you when it's brand new. I swapped this after about 3 days. I just preferred the tip up carry. It felt a little bit more comfortable in the pocket. Also, the reason I figured this out is that it is better, in my opinion, as a tip up because of this curvature. The natural curvature in the knife, I carry it, I'm right-handed, it's in my right-hand pocket. When you put it in how it comes from the factory like this, it's kind of blocking your pocket a little bit. And I found that when I reached into my pocket to grab my change, a little trolley changer, in a couple cases I was EDCing one of my smaller flashlights. When I reached in the pocket, my back of my hand kept rubbing on the base of the knife on the bottom. Okay, and that's because of this curvature, even though it's only in the right side of my pocket. So I ended up flipping it upside down, carrying it tip up, and this rested against the pocket and a nice smooth side here to dip in. Something not a lot of people consider with an EDC knife is the general shape of it and how that's going to affect your hand coming in and out of your pocket. I know personally at least of 2 people who just will not buy any knives with a flipper, at all, because of that reason, that most of the time when carrying tip up a flipper design knife, that flipper will be exposed, okay, to your hand when reaching into the pocket. It's a consideration that not a lot of people make, but so be it. I sometimes, if it's not bad enough, I don't care. So it just depends. It all comes with use and experience. So I don't write off anything. I'll always try new things. I won't look at a knife and say, oh, it doesn't have this or it does have this and that's why I'm getting it or not getting it. I'm open to anything sharp. I love trying things, But just a consideration. Yeah, but the pocket clip is swappable for tip up or tip down, but only right hand carry. As you see here, there's no option for left hand carry. Okay, that possibly may be just for presentation. They didn't want the little cutouts, who knows? But again, it might be a design decision from Anzo. The pocket clip itself, it's a different style, and this is nothing really new, but the idea behind these Hourglass, shaped Sypderco clips is that they're a little bit more narrow, so they have a little bit less wear on the pocket. This one's a glossy black, looks like a tie-dye coating, titanium nitride, very glossy. It looks nice in the pocket. It's okay. It's nothing nothing special. Just wanted to mention that if you do see this different style as opposed to just the straight ones, that was kind of the reasoning behind it, is that the smaller it is, the smaller surface area there is, and the less wear in your pocket, because a lot of people who do carry knives all the time, you do find that your pants wear out faster. The material, you're literally rubbing metal and synthetic materials, on that material, which normally isn't supposed to be rubbed. So, having a smaller clip like this does minimize the wear in the pocket. It's got a nice little flow-through design. You can see here. Very nice, classy standoffs. Most standoffs are kind of just pillar construction. They're all pretty much the same, little barrel spacers. But very nice. You can see in there the steel liners are skeletonized inside for weight reduction. So that's very nice. Something I wanted to mention in this review, it's not really specific to this knife, it's specific to most Sypdercos. If you guys know from flicking out your Sypdercos, or pretty much most knives with your opening holes, sometimes the inside rim could be quite sharp. Okay, there's basically, once they're drilled, it's such a fine drill. These inside corners are like perfectly 90 degrees. They're not like buffed out or anything. And particularly if you're gonna be flicking your knives out like this, you'll find that that it'll scratch the nail, take a little bit of that, it's not enamel, I forget what it's called, kerosene or something. Anyway, your nail material, it scrapes, okay? It's actually sharp. You can find that it's irritating. It's not a huge deal, but something I want to just mention, just randomly, because I have it here, is if you have your little ferrocerium rods, your fire steels, this actually works really good with most Sypdercos to slip it through your spider hole, okay? And then rest it. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to, get soot or anything on this this blade. But holding your knife like this, if you were to pull back towards you, you can just rip that down and it'll create your sparks for you. Okay. Even instead of using the spine of your blade, which is also in this particular case very, very sharp, perfect 90-degree angle, you could spark your fire steel like that. But I think that it's even easier to put it through your spider hole. You have a lot more control, and then just use that to get a fire started. Just a random little thing that I noticed. So I was kind of playing around with this and just flicking it open and closing it, and flicking it open and closing it, and flicking it and closing it. My finger got sore. I thought, you know what, a lot of Sypdercos are like this. Just darn sharp in that opening hole. So just something to note. Overall, it's a kind of a little chunky knife. It's not, really wide or anything. It's just, it feels kind of chunky in the hand. Again, that pistol grip being a little bit wider, that curvature. It's not really heavy or anything. 3.4 ounces. And of course, that lightening in the stainless liners helps with the weight reduction. But I don't know. Overall, it just feels like kind of a small, chunky knife. You know what I'm talking about. It's weird. It's a love-hate relationship. I like this knife because it performs fairly well. I really like it. The S30V is great on it. The grip is definitely adequate. The scales are awesome. The blade shape, although overall is strange, it's very functional. As I mentioned, your cutting edge works fantastic with this one. So it's a great user knife. It's just, to me, it doesn't appeal to me visually. I just think it is an ugly knife. There's no way around it. That's personal opinion. Some of you will agree with me, some of you won't. That's fine, doesn't matter either way. But being a knife review, I just want to throw my opinion in there. It has nothing to do with fact or performance, but it just doesn't float my boat. You know what I'm saying? These sell for about $100, straight across the board. $98 to $105 is about the price range I've seen on these. I think for $100, it's a great performing knife. I think it's also unique. I also think if you're a knife collector of sorts, of course, all the oddball Sypdercos that come and go, definitely a must-have. This is something that would be great in a collection. Of course, if you're an Anzo fan, you got to follow him, and you know, any kind of production knife he's going to work with companies, you might want that for your collection. But I'm just not a particular fan of this, just because I don't think it looks all that great, and it's not as comfortable as many other Sypdercos and many other offerings from different companies. So yeah, it's kind of a middle of the road review. I think it's a great knife. I personally would pick a lot of other ones before it. So yeah, Sypderco Zulu certainly is interesting though. I'll give it that. I have to give credit to Enzo for, you know, being unique with the designs. There's nothing on the market that looks like this, functions quite like this as well. I think if there was a larger version, even with the same shape, it would fit the hand a little bit better. And you know, of course, his designs are his designs, and that's what makes it an Enzo pattern. But if, like I said, if you were to straighten that blade out just like that, I think it'd be just as nice. But anyway, that's it. That's my review of the Sypderco Zulu. Pretty interesting. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I certainly hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I will talk to you soon. Take it easy, guys.